had 4 or 5G bars in more places. And now, when you switch, you can get iPhone 13 on us.
This is music
we will
and
explore
news.
other things like, say, Reddit or Quora, or there's a lot of different places where you can figure out. So my niche that is on the best of this thing.
This is Channel 420. Channel 420. The newest music, Channel 420. Channel 420. Listen to Channel 420 all day. Channel 420. 420.
Yeah, I would just say, like,
All right, guys, thanks for joining us today. We are going to be talking to Victoria Song. Victoria is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author of the book Bending Reality. Victoria, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Very good, very good. It's good to have you on the show. We want to definitely learn from you today and, talk about your book and see what you have going on.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Perfect. So Bending Reality, tell us a little bit about it. What caused you to write it, or what
inspired you?
Thank you. That's the right word. What inspired you to write it?
You know, I did not set out to write a book. It was, I guess, a quarantine project. I feel like I received almost like a download for the book, and with it was like, I guess I should just put it out there. So I wrote the book in about a week, and it captures a lot of the work that I've been doing with my clients, who are mainly entrepreneurs, tech founders, business leaders, who've achieved remarkable outcomes like selling a company for $4 billion, designing a more effective COVID vaccine, being able to grow revenue 1,000% during the COVID quarantine. And so the book really teaches how to collapse time, how to make the impossible probable. And I really wanted to capture everything that I do and really just give it away for the price of a book.
That's excellent. Awesome. So now, how long have you been doing this kind of work, the work that went behind the scenes of writing the book?
Yeah, so I first started my career as a venture capitalist. So I used to invest in tech startups beginning in 2010. And so I think that was really the beginning of me watching what winners did differently, the ones who were very successful. And I also was born in a family of entrepreneurs, so I've kind of been around it my whole life. But then what I think really locked in my learnings was that I've hired 25 coaches and counting. Every part of life, from business, money, life, sex, you name it, I've hired a coach to help me and support in that part of my life. And so it's really been, years, hundreds of thousands of dollars invested, 3 different certifications, and me becoming evidence for it in my life, but then more importantly, creating evidence through my clients' results in their lives, and then now trying to create more evidence through all their readers.
That's cool. So really quick, I'm really interested in this, and I would think that I need to employ some coaches in my own life for several different things, much like you did. What exactly? Now, you don't have to get too in depth. Like if I say what does a coach teach you, or what are some of the kind of the paths or projections that a coach would try to help you with? Let's not go with sex, although that would be interesting. Let's go with money. What is something that a coach, a financial coach, will teach you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I believe that all of our entry points to this work is different depending on the biggest pain point in our life. And for many of us, figuring out how to make money, especially doing something we love, versus believing we have to sacrifice our passions in order to make money, or we have to wait till we save up before we can transition. A money mindset coach will really help you understand, okay, what is your coding around money? What did you learn based on how your parents relate to money? What kind of fight or flight scarcity mentality did your parents develop in reaction to their childhood that they passed down in their programming to you? And what have you kind of unconsciously picked up from just being in our culture and our society with how it relates to money? So that would be one of the big pieces, is just understanding what are the thoughts related to money, and then also what are the emotions related to money, like fear, unsafety, scarcity, lack, all those emotions that I think really get in the way of people going after their dreams and believing they can make money. And then ultimately, the actions we're willing to take depending on the thoughts and feelings we have look very different. If we feel courageous, confident, trusting, grateful, excited, versus scared and feeling like, you know, we have a lot of limiting beliefs in the way, then we'll probably play small, sacrifice, a life that isn't lived to our fullest potential because we think that that's just the sacrifice we have to make. We might believe we have to work really hard and struggle and, you know, suffer and endure a lot of pain in order to make money. We might think we have to work harder and longer hours to make it. So anyway, those are some of the status quo belief systems that a money coach would help you break through.
Awesome. Those are all very good things that people have to work through all the time. You like nailed off several of them.
Right.
So I guess the best thing about a coach is really it's just like an unbiased person that's trying to like open up your eyes to see things where, you know, you could be lacking. Now, like, I guess you're just picking them based off of their qualifications or what they've done in the past, or is it usually someone that you know, or like a mentor, or is it like a hired coach? What's usually the case?
Yeah, for me, it's a hired coach, and you know, there's not like a Yelp glossary or you know, place to find them per se. So it's usually referral. It's usually, you know, you have a friend who's just made a huge breakthrough in their life, and they're telling you it's because they hired this amazing coach, and then you're like, wait, really? Tell me more. And so that's usually how I find my coaches. And I also think in some ways being with a coach that's embodied the results that you want is also like a bit of a calibration portal, kind of like a tuning fork. You kind of attune to their whole way of being, like not just their thoughts and belief systems, but their attitude toward life, their vibes, like how they approach everything becomes like almost like a tuning fork. You get to calibrate to that. So I think that's one of the gifts of working with someone. And I think it's really important to look for people who've, like you said, embodied it through the results of their life, but also embodied it in a way that feels like their whole life reflects something you want. Because I think it's easy to hire a coach to help you make money who also has their relationship falling apart, is not there for their family, doesn't have a community or time for their passions. I wouldn't want to hire that kind of a money coach because that's not the kind of life I want to live. And so I think it's also important to look for someone who's embodied it in a way that's inspiring, that you want to, that you'd want the life that they've created.
That's a really good point. You don't want to start sacrificing things that allows you to be successful in one area but not another. I mean, we see that happen all the time, and it's sad because then people are not really going after the lives that they want. They're just going after that one goal and then not getting everything that they encompass. We were talking the other day, we just did a live stream, and we were asked a question can you fake motivation? I'd like to ask you that question and see what you can drop for us.
You know, I believe that if you read the book, you'll see that I talk about positive fuels for motivation that are like energizing, sustainable, healthy fuels for motivation, and then toxic ones that come from wanting to prove something, wanting to prove that you matter in the world. Maybe it's like a significance and wanting to, finally be as successful, be taken seriously, be smart enough, be respected. That's a lot of the drivers I've seen for people. And so I wouldn't call that a fake motivation. I would just call that an unhealthy motivation. It's a fuel that leads to burnout. It leads to you spreading yourself too thin, and your point, sacrificing things at all cost to be successful. And then it ends up, I think, not just poisoning you and your well-being and health, but really the cultures that you create in your company, your family life. I think everything suffers when you plug into toxic fuel. And so then I talk about a more expansive fuel that is sustainable, re-energizing, and those are things like a mission statement, right? So your sense of why this matters to you. I think with a big context, you can ride a lot of the waves in life. I think, when we're in this sense of unsafety, am I going to be okay? What if it doesn't work out? Then it feels like everything that doesn't go our way is really terrifying, and we attempt to control and predict life. But when we have this big context of what we stand for in the world, what we feel like we're doing in the world, the positive ripples we hope to make, it allows us to ride a lot of the obstacles. And I think with a big why, you also have access to infinite number of hows. There's no limit to the ways in which you can achieve what you're here to do if you have a strong mission statement. So that's something the book actually uncovers, gives you a exercise to uncover that. And then I think another healthy motivation is our value system. And these aren't ethics, but these are things like I value, beauty, for instance. So you could create beauty through your beautiful office behind you. You know, you can really create your values and infuse it into everything that you do. And then I also think that another positive fuel is really the play and the fun that we have doing what we love. And so I think, you know, you probably lead podcasts because it's actually fun for you to do. And I think when we connect to this sense of play, it's again a very expansive fuel that feels like no motivation is actually required. You know, like you don't have to convince kids to play. So as an adult, if you find something that feels like fun for you, then you get to just be in your zone of genius and really thrive from there. And then the last thing I really support people to do is to connect to the love that they have for the work that they do. Because I think that that's one of the highest motivations, is to love what you do. And so I believe if someone's trying to fake motivation, it's probably because they haven't yet connected to one of those more healthy, sustaining fuels.
I love what you said there, and I've heard you say it twice now in you know, the last couple of questions, you know, that we've asked you, is, you know, where some people might sacrifice their passion or, you know, do what you love, all these things. That's one thing that we preach over and over and over, and I think it's probably something we say on just about every single episode is, you know, you have to do something you love. You have to turn your passion, and, you know, obviously it's a financial podcast and we talk about money a lot, but turn your passion into a profit. Like, don't sacrifice your passion. Use it as a tool. You know, if don't do something you hate, again, do something you love. So I love that you've said it several times. I mean, it just falls right in line with the mission, because that is in our mission statement of this show, is to teach people to turn their passion into a profit. And that's so important, especially, you know, nowadays, people, there's so many things going on in the world, you know, with the pandemic and whatever. You know, people are finding new ways to make money, and as long as you're doing something that you love, there's that saying, right? Like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. It's so important. It's so important it just helps people be motivated and not fake motivated.
Yeah. I mean, I think the conclusion that we actually ended up coming to is like that you can't really fake motivation, but you can unlock your motivation by figuring out what your why actually is. And like a lot of times people can forget their why, and, you know, then they just keep going down this path of searching for more money or fame or whatever it is. And so then they can't just fake motivate themselves with like the toxic things that you were saying. It's more of like you're just unlocking what's already there. You just have to figure out what your why is deep down, and like that's what the mission statement and everything comes in. So that's awesome. What are some other teasers from your book? Like give some. Why should people buy this? You've already given some good stuff, so I want some more though.
Well, as I mentioned, I've worked, you know, with 25 different coaches, and I've worked with most of the clients who find me have been, you know, deep in the work themselves for a long time, but haven't been able to really crack, you know, the breakthrough that they're hoping for. And what I found is that in some ways, all these coaches are going about in their own way, trying to accomplish the same thing. So I feel like my book captures or distills this meta framework of like, what is every coach actually trying to do? So I'm hoping to save people the time I spent of like a decade and hundreds of thousands of dollars and hiring or even finding 25 coaches to even work with. I'm hoping to save everyone that time and money and just like distill it down with a meta framework. And so one framework that I'll share that I teach in the book, which is a really critical one, is the difference between contraction and expansion. And so right now I can just experientially ask you and even the listeners to tune in to an event that happened this last week that you didn't like, that you kind of wish went another way. It just wasn't a pleasant event. And let me know when you have one selected. It could be personal or professional.
That was, it was said, come up with an event that wasn't...
It was not pleasant.
Wasn't pleasant. Yeah.
For me, things that are unpleasant for me right now in my life are poopy diapers. We have a new baby. So that's there. You know, sleeping less. You know, I typically fall asleep very easily, and I sleep very well throughout the night. So unpleasant is that I'm not getting the sleep that I normally was getting. That I've got to work through being able to handle that. Does that count?
Yeah. Okay. Good. It does, Justin. And when you tune into that, like, what do you notice in your physical body that feels like to not get the sleep, to have to change poopy diapers?
Well, with the sleep, I guess we can stick with that one. With the sleep, I feel like sometimes my decision making, I'm not as acute as I used to be. Like, I might have to think about it like, oh, what would I do here? Whereas normally it was just, I don't live my life with regrets, something like that. I make a decision, I go with it. Now I'm finding myself like, What do I need to do here?
Yeah, okay. So then when you feel like the sleepiness in your body right now, what is that like sensationally? Like, do you notice like tightness, tenseness? Like even like when you imagine the image of a poopy diaper, what do you notice goes on in your body?
I have a gag reflex, so
Yeah, okay.
we can stay away from the poopy diaper because that's just me gagging and my wife laughing at me. But with like the tiredness, I feel more lethargic. I feel tired. Like I feel like my legs are tree trunks. Sometimes it's hard to swing them to keep walking.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange. It's not something I'm used to. I've always been able to, if I'm super tired, like, one night I don't get good sleep, the next night I refill and recharge and I'm good to go. So this is something that, it's been a few days in a row now, like a week and a half. So it's wearing on me a little differently than it has in the past.
Okay, yeah. So I would say this sort of sleep deprived state is just one example of feeling contraction in your body, right? So right now you're feeling like, okay, maybe that's sleepiness, poor decision making, a little hazy in the mind. Maybe you even notice that your health is not as great right now. There's this feeling of contraction in your body and your nervous system, maybe a little tighter, wound up, feeling less relaxed, as a contraction. And did you have one too?
I mean, I couldn't think of anything super specific. The only thing I could think of is like losing a bunch of money in a trade. Like that could be sure. So like a sudden financial loss, let's say that.
Yeah, okay. And when you imagine that like money leaving your account and the loss, like what do you notice goes on in your body?
In my body. Yeah, I guess I would be I don't know. I guess I would be
tune into it right now. Yeah, anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like
what's your breathing like?
A lot of times it could be it depends. Like I have weird like when it comes to financial loss, like if I feel like I made a mistake doing something like that like went against myself, my thought. Like if I make a bad trade and I knew I made a mistake doing it, I'm very like upset with myself. So that's like one feeling. That would be like one feeling that happened the most recent one. So I was more upset with myself because I went against like my rules of what I believed in, right? So another time would just be a financial loss, just like I went with my plan but it didn't work out. Like that doesn't bother me. But when I go against like my plan and my rules, so it's like almost like a self-hate kind of judgment kind of feeling.
Yeah. Okay. And when you feel that self-judgment, do you notice like tightness in your chest or like where do you notice it's uncomfortable?
I don't know if I can really pinpoint that. It's really hard.
You should get the book then, because this is exactly for people who could benefit from this mind-body connection. So what I help my clients do is get into the peak mental, physical, and emotional state required to bend reality. So a lot of my clients are technical engineers, analytical, really smart. So they live in their minds. And when I ask them these questions, it can be actually hard. They're like, I can tell you everything I'm thinking, but I'm not sure I can tell you what that brings up in my body. And what happens is our bodies are actually the physical state that subconsciously drive whether or not we're taking bold, courageous actions we trust, we feel safe, or it's the parts of us that are spinning on worst case scenarios. If we don't feel safe in our body, then we're, judging ourselves. We're thinking smaller than possible. We're really looking at defensiveness and protection over like innovation and trying to, go after our dreams essentially. And so there's so much wisdom and information from being able to connect to what is actually the physical state happening in our body. Is it one of contraction or expansion? So maybe by giving you the contrast, it'll become really clear to you. So now I want you to imagine a really happy moment from the past week, maybe one that you felt grateful for, one that you enjoyed, was very pleasant.
Got one.
You guys have one?
Yeah, sure. Got one.
Okay, good. And now I think that the contrast will be easier to notice, but what do you notice it feels like when you tune into this pleasant experience?
You're much more relaxed.
Yeah.
Like I feel, and your brain is open to making decisions, whereas otherwise you're hyper focused on maybe negative. So you're just
the problem.
Yeah, the problem.
Yeah, I almost feel like I get a release of whether it's a dopamine or endorphin or something, because it makes me feel good inside my body when I'm thinking about this moment of my life that happened. It sets off a chain of reactions, and like you said, I feel weight off my shoulders. I feel like I can breathe easier, and I feel happier.
In control.
Amazing. Yeah. So this is the state that I call expansion, which is in contrast to contraction. And what would it be like if you could make this your default state?
Oh, you could be on top of the world if you could just live in expansion.
Exactly. Great. Yeah. So that's a framework that really the book centers around is how can you make this your default state? How do you release contraction in your body so that this can really become, you know, your peak performance, your flow state, all those great terms that we've heard of. And the thing is, there's so many things that put us into contraction. They could be events, but oftentimes they're even thoughts, right? Like you're thinking like, what if it doesn't work? What if it goes wrong? What if this trade doesn't succeed? Oh my gosh, like I kind of have an intuition, but now I didn't go it. So now I kind of hate myself. And so now I have feelings of judgment and shame and guilt, you know? So there's all these thoughts and emotions that actually create these states in our bodies. It's just a lot of us who live in our minds will kind of just overlook what those thoughts and feelings are. We're kind of just like, again, hyper-focused on the problem. And so the book really uncovers, okay, how do we start to release contraction by really being mindful of the thoughts, feelings, actions that put us into a state of contraction? And then how can we consciously cultivate the thoughts, feelings, and events and actions that will allow us to deepen the state of expansion? And so again, because I worked with 25 coaches, I believe that every coach out there, whether it's money, health, relationships, business, is giving you their tools for how they release contraction around money so that you could feel expansive around money and, you know, flourish and become abundant. Or it's around your health. How do you release the physical ailments or things that make you shame your body or feel unhappy in your body, all the contraction in your body, and then access expansion. So I've really given every tool that I've learned across all these domains to help you release contraction in every topic, every area of your life. Love, again, money, business, leadership, and then really stabilize expansion as your default state.
That's really cool. I think that if you could get yourself into expansion and kind of just live in that world, whether you're an entrepreneur, a businessman, athlete, whatever, I don't think it matters, you know, what your realm is. I think that sky's the limit. It just opens up your mind and your opportunities a lot. I'm really looking forward to, I don't read a whole lot of books. I don't have a really good attention span, but I can do audiobooks.
Yeah, listen to the audiobook. I was about to say I prefer the audiobook personally. I think it's great.
Wonderful. I will
recorded
definitely.
it in like a musician studio, so it's even like nicer sounding than a typical audiobook.
Nice.
Well, that's good. I will definitely give it a listen, and then I would love in the future, after we both listen to it and we kind of get more expansive in our own worlds, to revisit this conversation and have another chat with you.
I would love that. Yeah. And, you know, just bringing it back to money, since I know your listeners really care about that. What I found is that I've worked with clients who, you know, have made billions of dollars to people who are on their path to becoming multimillionaires. And it's often the strange thing where the reality of our situation it's not reflected in how we feel. Like even the clients that I work who have all the money in their bank account can still feel a sense of scarcity around like the moment of transaction, or the guilt around spending on something that they want, or the moment they're putting money towards something that's not intended to make more money, but is actually just a vacation, you know? And so it's interesting how, you know, we could actually have money and be quote unquote rich on paper, but feel so much lack and scarcity. And so I think it's really important to examine like what are these feelings of contraction and these thoughts of contraction that make us unable to actually even enjoy the money when we have it. You know, like if you ask people, why do you want to make money? They probably say, because I want to create opportunities for my families. I want to enjoy it and travel and see the world. I want to take care of my family, you know, pay off my parents' mortgage. Like there's all this freedom that we want to feel with money. We don't say I want money so it can sit in my bank account, you know? Right. And yet majority of people, even when they've saved up for the home or the purchase that they can afford, the moment they see the money leave their account, there is this like sinking feeling of scarcity and lack, you know? And so, yeah, I really want to empower everyone to feel like, how can you feel expansive spending money, holding money, investing money, making money, asking for the amount of money you want to make, charging, whatever your business is. And so again, like every topic under the sun, you get to look at where do I have patterns of contraction when I relate to this, and where can I expand and therefore really increase the upper limits on what's possible around money.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, that's definitely, like, everyone has to live in that mindset. Like, you have to get there. I mean, I think the majority of people live in such a tight box of like the social construct that's been put on all of us since we were like how we were raised. And so like that's really what we want to do here is like our main thing. We talked about it earlier, but to really just get people out of the box of just thinking, like get outside of yourself and realize what makes you happy. I mean, and like that's the most important thing. Like money, we talk about so much money here, and we have tons of money all around us, but it doesn't do anything for you if it's just sitting in your bank, or even if you're using it. It gets old, stuff gets boring. You could have everything in the world and it'll get boring. So
yeah,
definitely have to find that balance. And I like what you said, the contraction too, because like I think that I would use that as like an identifier to know when I'm like mentally not there. So like you can almost use the physical to identify your psychological state.
Yeah, so the first, so the book is taught in terms of codes and unlearnings, and the first code to bending reality is to ask yourself, in this moment, do I feel contracted or expansive right now?
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, and then to not take any actions, not make any decisions, don't have any important conversations when you notice the answer is, I'm in contraction right now. And so again, the book teaches you, okay, if I notice I'm in contraction, how do I process it and release it? Metabolize it so that I can move into expansion and then take action from there. And I love your point around money, because what I've seen is like, if you have success, you're successful. If you have money, you're rich, but none of those buy the courage, confidence, trust, joy, abundance, freedom, fun, love that everyone thinks those things will get you. And I think it's kind of an unfortunate thing that most people are going to spend their lives trying to achieve those outcomes. So they don't even realize, unless you get there, that it was kind of a trap, or that they were duped and there's still a void even after achieving it. And if you ask most people on their path to money and success, like, why aren't you happy? They'll say, oh, it's because I haven't achieved the money I want yet. It's because I haven't achieved the success I want yet. And they don't realize that the feelings don't go away after they achieve it. But that's something that unfortunately only those who've kind of achieved it kind of figured out that that's true, and then come back and realize that there's an inner game and the inner work that's required, which is what I support my clients to do with the book too.
I like that. I feel better after having this conversation with you.
Do you feel more expensive?
I feel way more expansive, and I'm really looking forward to actually listening to the book so I can start to, like you just said, kind of identify, like, if I'm in a contractive state, like, don't have this what could be life-altering conversation.
Don't fight with your wife.
Don't get into a conversation that I mean, it's not like we're gonna get divorced or anything, but like, don't get into a conversation that has an outcome that needs to be a certain way when I might be feeling contractive inside. Wait till you're expansive. Find what's inside of you that in order to make yourself truly feel happy. I think at this moment moving forward, I'm either contractive or expansive, and that's how I'm gonna go about my day. I like it.
Yeah, great.
Feel good.
And once you have this framework, it becomes really obvious why people say things like, feel gratitude, right? Because when you feel gratitude, like, how heart-opening and expansive does that feel in your body, right? When you tune into gratitudes. For some people, praying to a God opens them up because there's this complete trust and surrender, right? I feel like trust is one of the highest states of expansion. When you feel like, you know what, everything's going to be okay. I just have a feeling no matter what, it's going to be fine. Like, that is so expansive feeling. And some people get there because they've done all the work and the analysis, and they're like, you know what, I trust this decision. Some people get there because they, really believe in a higher self or God, where they're praying and they think God's looking over them or universe is looking out. And some of them are really just committed to growth and evolution over a lifetime, where they'll say, you know what, I'll either learn an important lesson if it doesn't work out, or I'll be really grateful that it did work out. And either way, I know I'll be fine. Like, I got myself. Like, whatever happens, I'm safe, I'm okay. And some of that can come from within as well, that level of trust.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in enjoying every process of life that you're in. So I feel like I have been lucky to be in Like, I'm definitely not in an expansive state all the time. Like, I'm not saying that, but like, I feel like, I don't know if it's the way I was raised or what. It also has to do with, you know, the spiritual side as well. Like, you know, God, I'm definitely a believer in that. But like, I have been always, it's like, you have to enjoy everything that you're doing, the good and the bad, because you're constantly learning from all those things. And until you can learn how to enjoy the hard times as well as the good times and be able to reflect on that and be okay with where you are at in life right now, like, you will never be happy if you can't enjoy the process of getting to whatever goals you want to go to, because then you're only happy for a short period of time. So,
do you think that is there a correlation between the expansive and contraction versus an optimist and a pessimist?
You know, I do think that sometimes optimism can be a bit of like bypassing, right? Like not really doing what's required, not really looking at the hard stuff, not really want to confront something difficult, not really want to face the truth. So I wouldn't say like point blank, just be an optimist, you know, because I think there can be an optimist who's like, I can't pay my bills, but I'm just going to sit here and be optimistic that somehow someone's going to show up at my door with money, you know, so that's not healthy. And then I've also noticed, you know, defensive pessimism, where there's people who are afraid to be disappointed, and they, out of the fear of being disappointed and going after a dream and failing, they'd rather kind of set expectations low, because I think they'll be happier if they expect really low expectations, like expect nothing almost, so I'm not disappointed. So I would say both of those extremes, you know, like are not supportive of getting into a good state. And so ultimately it really is like, I think, you know, when I opened this conversation, I said having a big context helps you ride the highs and lows. Like you just articulated your context, which is that you look at life through this lens of the good or the bad. I'm learning, I'm evolving, I'm growing. Like the content of my life is the curriculum of my evolution. And that's like a context that will allow you to ride every wave that life brings you. You're kind of like, bring it. I'm ready for it, you know? And that's a context that's going to allow you to be in expansion, even when things are hard. And, you know, for some other people, that context could be the mission statement of what they're here to do on the planet, where they'll say something like, you know what, I'm going through a lesson right now that's going to be so teachable on a podcast. You know, like I'm sure that whatever I'm learning now is going to be a great story for the future. And that can help them stay in expansion to ride out the challenges. So I really do believe we get to choose, like, what is the context that makes me feel most inspired to show up, most empowered, most in the state of trust, versus, you know, what are the beliefs that put me into fear and lack and comparison and judgment and a fear of disappointment, and constantly asking, like, what if it doesn't work? Like I have an impending doom generator of, you know, all the ways that this is going to be a catastrophe, or worst case scenario plotting. Like those are the things to look out for, as I think a lot of people, absent plugging into an expansive fuel or actually doing the inner game work, will subconsciously live in this place of fear, right? That maybe it's their family's programming, society's programming, looking for external validation, trying to prove something, allowing, the what if it doesn't work, stop them from actually finding out, well, what if it does work?
It's different for everybody too. That's the craziest thing. That's why you guys need to go out and get this book, because you need to identify the areas that you can improve and change. So I would definitely highly recommend that. After just hearing this short interview, I already know what an awesome person you are, Victoria. I just wanted to say thank you for spending the time today talking about the book with us.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to listening to Bending Reality.
Thank you. It's so nice to connect with you both, and thanks for all the great questions.
You've been amazing. Thank you. For anybody that's listening, obviously the name of the book is Bending Reality. Feel free to buy it, listen to it, read it, whatever, however you consume your books. But where else can they find you if they've got additional questions, some kind of follow-up? Or now, do you do any coaching yourself, or is that something you love?
Yeah, I actually have one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and I launched my newest course. Is called Bending Reality Live, where I go deeply into all these principles, some of which we talked about today and all the ones in the book. And so if you want, you can sign up for that. That's on my website at www.victoriasong.me. And then you can find me at Victoria E. Song on Instagram. But again, the website's a great place to find different ways to work with me.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Well, this has been absolutely expansive for me.
I love that.
I appreciate you dropping some knowledge on us and kind of really explaining some of this stuff. It was great. I look forward to reading the book. I actually look forward to chatting with you again after we do, and just kind of see where the road takes us. I might even sign up for a coaching session. I know I need a coach.
That would be great. No, really, I think you guys would love the course. You guys should just do it together. Seriously, I've had clients who worked with me one-on-one who are taking that group course. So they've already worked with me before and they're really interested in the Bending Reality course. And then I also have couples taking that course, which is so cool. And I think business partners should definitely take the course together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I had a great time chatting with you, and we look forward to doing it again soon.
Thank you. Same.
Bye.
Thank you.
Playing when one door closes, another opens.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the J Chain Show.
Your complimentary Pandora Premium session starts now. Search and play what you want.
Sister